Hey Umbraco fans, I've got another video which is for a contentment editor called Render Macro. Okay, let's have a look and see what the documentation says about this. If I open up the docs from the Google GitHub repository, we have Render Macro, right? And Render Macro is like another read-only label, similar to the notes one if you saw that video. But what it will do is render an Umbraco macro as the label. Some people may be thinking, why would I use that? I've never used a macro, at all for anything. This is, is in the macro Umbraco legacy thing. No, you can totally use this. What it is based on is a feature that I did for the uComponents package back in Umbraco v4 and v6 days, called Render Macro. Similar thing. So you would be able to pick a macro and then render it out. And using, there's some extra properties that can be added onto it. So I'll take you through quickly on how to go about doing that. So first I need to create a macro. For Umbraco 8, this is only Razor or Razor view or partial view macros. There's no things like XLT like that anymore. So what you would do is you create a new macro file. You can create one without a macro from a snippet. If you have a look at what the snippets are, there are things for useful stuff for your website. So you can have macros for your login status. You can do navigation, sitemap, breadcrumbs. The example I'm going to show, I've not got a fully structured website, so there's no point me showing any navigation or breadcrumb trail because I'm literally at my content when you see the page will be at the top most level. So I'll just create an empty script at the moment. I do have something I can copy and paste in from elsewhere. And this has just got some extra bits and bobs in it. Let's just say, let me get rid of, because I've got extra stuff I don't need to show. But what you will get in your macro when it renders, you've got strongly typed access to the actual content like page you're on, but also the macro parameters that are passed through. So let's just say when I save this, it needs a name. I'll just call it my macro. Okay. Then I come. The macro has been created as well, so this over in the macro section. So I have a macro template down here, and then this is the actual macro where I can configure the parameters if you're not familiar with it. So that's added the macro script, and over in the parameters you can add parameters to pass through. So just as an example here, I had heading that I've copy and paste. Let me just capitalize that. Why is it driving me mad? Okay, I'm just going to put this as a text box so we can just enter some text. Just keeping it really simple for the moment. There are other parameters you can pass through. All right, so if I come to the to my document type, which is a test page, if you've seen the other videos, that this is the similar thing. I'm just going to call this Render Macro, and then find my Render Macro property editor. So we're creating a data type from it, and here I get a listing of one macro, which is my macro, to how I want to render it. So if I type in here, hello world, very original. Again, like the notes one that we've done previously, we can hide the label or show the label. So if I submit this, so save the data type, save the document type. Actually, if I don't worry about reordering it. Okay, so save that, and then if I come over to the content section, look at my page, what we shall have. It might take a while. I think this is Models Builder in the background doing something. Okay, it's loading up the macro, and we've got hello world, which is the text I passed through, and then I've got an ID, which is the ID of this page, and then I've got what the actual model is. If we come back to the macro, the actual template, I'm just outputting in Razor what the object type is. If I had IntelliSense in here, there's probably other things I could do to get other things from the like the document type alias and things like that. I just can't remember off the top of my head. So there are other parameters that can be passed through to find out a bit more contextual information. So if in my macro, if I added in other parameters, and I've got them listed here, there are ones like the property alias, the label, the culture, because if you're doing variants, what's the data type, GUID, description, and things like that. You can get that information in the macro and you can present that if you wanted to. And that's a whistle-stop tour of Render Macro. Thank you.